Welcome to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. Thanks for joining me today. My special guest from the Salvation Army, Cpt Brian DeMichael. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, doing good, Mike. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, a long time no
That's
see.
right. That's right.
It's that time of year again. It's snow falling and getting a little bit colder, but it's Red Kettle season.
It is. You know, I'm actually glad that we've got a little bit of snow falling right now because it seems to put everybody into the Christmas spirit, you know. Those 50-degree temperatures and things like that. I had to remind some bell ringers, you know, no shorts outside. You know, we need to, we got to, you know, keep working there towards the season. But, you know, for me, I like the snow between now and January 1st, and then it can just go away.
After that, it's good.
Go away.
It's good. Let's talk a little bit about Brian DeMichael first. I know graduate of Ohio State University.
The Ohio State University.
Just talk a little bit about your involvement in because your parents are in the Salvation Army.
They are. I've actually been a Salvationist for over 37 years now. Been a part of the Salvation Army. This Christmas will be my 20th Red Kettle campaign, in charge of a Red Kettle campaign, and then my lovely wife Laura and I have been administrators of a Salvation Army Center and pastors for going on almost 15 years now, and we've been ordained Salvation Army officers for 10 this year. So,
and you've been several different places because you have to. Normally, don't you move like every 4 years or 5 years, whatever
the Army does move people around, but how long folks stay can vary. My mother and father, as you mentioned, were with the Salvation Army, and they actually served in Licking County as the administrators there for 17 years.
Wow.
And then the folks that we followed here to Lancaster were here for 8 months. So it kind of lands anywhere there in the middle, but we're completing our 4th year now here in Lancaster and Fairfield County. Great place to be. And this is our 4th assignment since we've been in ministry together. So over the last 15 years, we spent 3 years in Akron. We spent 4 years just outside of Pittsburgh, 2 years down in Middletown, and now 4 here in Fairfield County.
Wow, that's kind of all over the place, really.
It is.
See, at what point in time I know your parents were involved in it, but at what point in time did you say, this is what I want to do?
It was shortly after I married my wife. Honestly, I wanted to go and work for Disney. I thought that would be a lot of fun.
Really?
And the Lord just said, you know, hey, I've got a different purpose for you. And so I was actually working in development at our headquarters in Cleveland. Was absolutely bored out of my mind. And there was an opening for they had a Salvation Army officer resign, and they needed someone to fill in an appointment. And I said, Laura and I would be more than happy to do it, and from that point on, we just kind of knew.
Did you ask her about this, or did you just...
She at first said no, but then prayed about it, and then she's like, all right, that's a good idea, and our folks agreed on it, which at that time was something very unique for our family. So, it was very good. We just knew that was the spot that the Lord wanted us to be. And, you know, we even have had some questions along the way. Lord, is this still where you want us to be? And I have an 11-year-old daughter that reminds me every day I see her that this is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
You're supposed to be. That's well, a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of World War II veterans and other Army veterans, just veterans in general, and talk a little bit about the history of the Salvation Army.
Well, the Salvation Army actually started in London, England back in 1865. The gentleman and his wife who founded it were William and Catherine Booth, and he had been a Wesleyan Methodist minister, but had noticed that within the church there were a lot of populations that weren't being taken care of. And he had a particular call to those who were on the streets, the drug addicts of those days, the alcoholics, prostitutes, people like that. And he felt a real call that, you know, these people needed to be reached out to. So he started street mission to go out and reach out to these folks. And before long, he realized, you know, there's some things we need to do to help these people. And so where the Salvation Army really got its, our mission very clearly says, you know, that our mission is to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and to meet human needs in His name without discrimination. It's the two going together, being concerned about the holistic person.
And we were talking. I was talking about Army veterans because I've talked to a lot that when they were in the service, Salvation Army was always there. They were always there. They didn't charge anything, and which I think is just phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely. You know, when even recently when we had the hurricanes and things that were down in the South, you know, Army personnel was on the scene helping people. I remember hearing one story about a Salvation Army officer whose own neighborhood was flooded, and he had a boat of his own. So he kind of got in his boat and went around and started rescuing people in his neighborhood. You know, it's a part of who we are. Back during World War I was really when the Salvation Army got involved in the wars, and the national commander of the Salvation Army at that time, who happened to be William Booth's daughter, said, you know, we want to go over and we want to help the troops in France. And she basically mortgaged everything and spent every last penny that they had to be able to go over and assist the troops in France. And so that's where the traditional Salvation Army Donut Girl comes around. That's why every June they have National Donut Day in honor of the Salvation Army, because those were the things that they were providing to the soldiers in the trenches during World War I, and it hasn't stopped, hasn't changed.
Yeah, that's amazing. There are so many aspects of the Salvation Army, but let's talk about the Red Kettles. Let's talk about I know this is the season, but just talk about the Red Kettles a little bit.
Well, the Red Kettle actually started back in the 1890s. There was a Salvation Army officer who was in San Francisco, and originally actually been, I believe from Scotland. And so he wanted to do this massive Thanksgiving dinner for the people who were there in San Francisco, for the needy, and he was trying to figure out a way to be able to do that. So he had remembered from his hometown, when the ships came in, they had this thing called Simpson's Pot, where people would come by and just throw their extra change in. So he thought, you know, I wonder what will happen if I try it here. So he got permission, set up this large pot on a tripod, and raised enough money in a relatively short amount of time to feed people there in San Francisco. So before long, it started to spread all around the country, and before long, you know, they were doing it in New York City to be able to do mammoth sit-down Christmas dinners at Madison Square Garden, and it's continued on to the present. You know, I tell folks that you can see the Red Kettle in Lancaster, Ohio, Lancaster, New York, Lancaster, California. You can even see them in Tokyo. You can see them in England. You'll see them all over the world, and it's a part of the Christmas season. It's a part of who we are, and people look for those kettles. You know, right here in Fairfield County, it plays such an important role in what we're able to do, not only at Christmas but throughout the entire year.
And then we have several locations for kettles, and actually bell ringers. We can still use volunteers.
Absolutely, absolutely. Each year we have approximately 3,500 hours that we have to cover, whether it's through volunteers or it's through some paid workers. And so we are still always taking volunteer bell ringers. If you're interested, we actually moved into the 21st century this year with our bell ringer sign up. But our entire bell ringer sign up this year is all online. So if you go to our website at fcohio.salvationarmy.org, you can actually click on the button there for volunteering, and you can pick out a time and a location and a day from here until December 23rd at various locations all around Fairfield County.
And what's the goal this year for the
$100,000.
So, and well on our way. I mean,
we are well on our way. Before long, you know, we're in about the 40 to 45% range right now, which is good. Even though we've passed the 50% mark on our days of kettles, but as usually happens, the kettle program usually picks up the closer we get towards the end of the month. So, you know, as people get more and more in the Christmas spirit, and we're just looking forward to those days. And, you know, we're thankful right now. We are ahead of where we were at the same point last year. So we're just thankful to the generosity and the kindness of people here in Fairfield County.
And there's locations at Kroger stores, Hobby Lobby, all sorts of locations.
That's right. We have every Kroger store in Fairfield County. We have every Walmart store in Fairfield County. Hobby Lobby, JCPenney at River Valley Mall, and Big Lots up in Pickerington. And like I said, you know, we sincerely appreciate all the people who volunteer to help us out, but we also appreciate those stores that are kind, that allow us to ring those bells at their stores. And, you know, for all those store employees who hear the bell ring all day, you know, we're thankful for them too, that they that they don't that they get used to that, and they just they know it's a part of the season.
And the bell ring is absolutely the biggest fundraiser, but people can donate to Salvation Army throughout the year.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Our programs and services don't just end when Christmas is done, but they actually go throughout the year. As a matter of fact, our Red Kettle campaign really supports all of the programs and activities of the Salvation Army throughout the year. And we have things such as our Basic Needs Program, which is our food pantry. And this last year, we provided over 30,000 meals out of that food pantry. We work with kids, and last year we provided 1,340 hours of interaction with at-risk youth, helping them to be able to find a different path. And then, of course, we have our Samaritan Center, our Adult Day Services program, which last year provided over 5,400 days of care for seniors right here in Fairfield County.
Wow, that's amazing. One of the programs for kids, Angel Tree program.
The Angel Tree program, yeah, you know, as part of Christmas, I'm sure, Mike, you remember as a kid waking up and there was presents under the tree for Christmas. I know there always was at my house. But for a lot of folks in Fairfield County, that's not always the easiest thing for them to be able to do. Many families within our county are just barely making ends meet. They barely have enough to keep the utilities on and a roof over their heads and food in their stomachs. And so for one of the things that the Salvation Army has done for many years is we actually support those families during the Christmas season, that if they're in need of toys and gifts for their children, the Salvation Army has been able to assist them with it. And so this year we have right around 550 kids that are signed up as part of our program, and we've got some wonderful donors around the county who have really just stepped up to help make Christmas bright for these kids. And every year it always just astonishes me how much people really care and really how far people go. I remember the first year we were here in Fairfield County, I'd never seen that many bicycles in one place together before, but that's just because of the generosity and the kindness of the people right here in our county.
Talk about Fight for the Good.
That's our theme this year, and actually it goes back to a lot of those roots that William Booth had. And right there, before he passed away, he had given this speech that said, "While women weep as they do now, I'll fight. While children go hungry as they do now, I'll fight. While people go to prison in and out, I'll fight. While there's someone on the streets," he goes, "while there's one person without the light of God," he said, "I'll fight, and I'll fight to the very end." So our theme this year has been all about fighting for good. That when you join the Salvation Army and you work with us, whether it's by putting change in one of the Red Kettles or putting a check in the mail or adopting a kid off the Angel Tree or volunteering for an hour at one of the kettles, you're helping us fight for good and helping us to make a difference here in Fairfield County. And as we talk about the things that we fight for, you know, those kids, those at-risk kids, we're fighting for tomorrow for those kids. We think about those seniors in the adult daycare center. You know, we're fighting against loneliness. We're fighting against those who feel like they have no more purpose, and then those who come into our food pantry. You know, we're fighting against hunger. You know, we're fighting to make a difference here in Fairfield County. And what's great is that our Fighting for Good campaign is not just something here that we're doing, but it's also going nationwide. And we've seen skaters such as Tony Hawk and some of his friends. You know, they've been out there fighting for good. The Dallas Cowboys. They've been out there fighting for good. I know there may be some non-Cowboy fans. You know, I got to be careful about that. But you know, people just stepping up and saying, you know what, I want to make a difference, and I'm going to fight for good this Christmas.
Have you seen a major change in that philosophy from when you first started till now? Is it?
There's more that's out there now. You know, we've been a lot more intentional about things like that. That's changed a little bit from many years ago. I remember going on kettle runs with my dad, and we won't say how old I was at that time, but you know, we obviously weren't using things like that. Right. But now with social media and with some great friends that the Salvation Army has, you know, I even saw something the other day on Facebook that we have a partnership right now with Tostitos. And if you buy these small bite-sized corn Tostitos chips, that they'll actually make a donation to the Salvation Army from that. Same thing with 7-Up products. If you go out and buy a 7-Up, you know, they're making a donation to the Salvation Army. So it's some of those relationships and partnerships that we've been able to build and grow over the years that, you know, that has changed quite a bit from the early days.
Right. Yeah, I just want to just throw a shout out to Tom Hammer.
Absolutely.
Tom was the director. Go ahead and talk about Tom.
Tom was actually our advisory board chair since 1981. Which is a really, really long time. I've been completely over the 4 years that we've been here, I've been just blessed to be able to work with Tom. Tom is just a wonderful man of God. He has a passion for the Salvation Army. He has a passion for this community. And so this year, in October, Tom actually stepped down, retired as our board chair, still on our board, but retired as our board chair after those many years. And there are many things, many times throughout the years that Tom has been the glue that has kind of helped hold us together. And transitions between officers and administrators, Tom has been the one that's just held steadfast, and I absolutely think the world of Tom, and those who know him would agree with me that he's just a fantastic guy.
He's been involved in the golf outing
Absolutely.
For 34 years.
He actually started the golf outing for the Samaritan Center back in, I want to say it was 2000, so they're on year 17. But I asked Tom, just out of curiosity, about how much had actually been raised for the Samaritan Center through the golf outing, and he rattled off a number to me of, I believe it was $180,740, which is impressive by any stretch. And he just does a fantastic job and is just really dedicated to helping make an impact to help fight for good here in Fairfield County.
And he was honored as the Grand Marshal in the holiday parade this year.
Absolutely. Tom is also a very humble man, though, as well.
Yes.
And when I said, that they wanted to honor him as the Grand Marshal, he goes, no. He goes, the Salvation Army is the Grand Marshal, and I'll just ride in the van and wave at people. He's just that kind of guy. And we just think the world of him.
You mentioned a couple times at-risk youth. Talk a little bit about that program.
Well, that program is actually called Bridging the Gap, and this is a group of kids that are referred to us by Fairfield County Juvenile Court. And a lot of these kids are ones that have just made some bad decisions, have gotten themselves into trouble. And so we have a life skills program that meets under the direction of Captain Laura DeMichael, my wife, and they work on some of these life skills. And we have one young man. I love to tell his story because it's just so encouraging to me. His name is Clayton. Clayton, when he first encountered the Salvation Army almost 4 years ago now, had gotten himself in trouble spray painting some things around the city, and it basically reached a point in his life where he said, I'm not going to even try anymore because I've got this record. What's the point? Well, we were able to get a hold of Clayton to work with him, and he actually, his life has completely changed. He's got purpose. He's got meaning to his life. The last few summers, he's worked at church camp, has been one of the head maintenance guys there, has worked with the kids, and what I love about his story is that he's now back in Lancaster, and he's working with us with some of the youth programs at the church, and it's great to see. He goes, what? I was just like those kids, and now I want to help make a difference in them. Full circle, and that's kind of the purpose of the whole fighting for good, and the purpose of why we do what we do is to change lives, to change tomorrow right now, because it's a lot easier to help a kid right now than it is when they're on the other side coming out of jail.
Right, because you also have a kids camp. You send kids to camp.
We do. We actually have the Salvation Army's Camp Swanecki, which is down just north of Cincinnati and Kings Island off of Interstate 71. And so this last year, we were privileged to be able to send 23 kids to camp from Fairfield County, and they got a chance to do a week of overnight camp with horseback riding and the ropes course and the swimming pool and hiking and all the great things that come along with that. So just another way that, we have an opportunity to make an impact on kids here in the county.
Looking in the future, plans for Salvation Army?
The Salvation Army in Fairfield County, we have some big things coming in the future. We just completed our community needs assessment. We've got some of our strategic plan that we're ironing out, and there's definitely some big changes that will be coming in the future. Mike, as you well know, our building, the Salvation Army has been in the same building for well over 40 years now, and not only is the building starting to wear out on us, but we're running out of room. Everywhere we go on our daycare center is busting at the seams. On a Thursday night, we have kids programs in the building, and we just don't have any more room to be able to continue to grow. We're looking at a couple of creative ideas this next January, or this next few months, to be able to change a few spaces in hopes, because we're planning on doing a summer day camp this year, to make a difference for families here in the county. And when you run out of space, it makes it a little tough. So there's some big things coming down the road.
That's fantastic. When you think back, and I mean, again, you've been here 4 years, and obviously there's plans coming down. Do you meet with other locations and talk and say, hey, what does this work? Does that work?
Many times. We actually have regular communication and stuff like that with every other Salvation Army that's in Southwest Ohio, which is a very interesting designation, because it goes all the way up to Findlay and all the way down to Marietta. So it's not just Southwest there, but that whole kind of part of the state. We meet regularly, we chat regularly, and because of how the Salvation Army is designed, we communicate regularly with Salvationists, not only in our region of the country, which is the Northeast, but I have friends and things like that all over the nation now that, I'm saying, hey, what are you guys doing over there? And they're asking us, what are you doing over there? Just to put ideas together, and just to really see best practices, and really to be able to serve our communities in the best way that we can.
We talked earlier a little bit about fundraising and things. If people want to be on it, they can donate monthly.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's people, I mean, we've both talked about estate planning for Salvation Army.
Absolutely. I always say leave us in your will, because the money that comes in from that's what helps support the Salvation Army long term. Unfortunately, for a lot of funding sources and a lot of nonprofits out there, it's getting increasingly difficult to raise dollars. And so following the example of what many of the universities and hospitals have done, we have a hometown endowment fund right here in Lancaster that we have been adding to, and each year we get a 4% return on that supports money coming right back into helping folks here in our community, and it's guaranteed. So if you're interested in supporting that endowment program, please give our development department a call at 740-687-1921, and I guarantee you, our development guy can probably follow up on that.
I heard he's really good. I heard he's really good.
And I still question his taste in college, but other than that,
Well, since you brought it up, thoughts on Alabama over Ohio State?
Now you put me in a tough spot here, because I gotta say now.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
That's right. Well, and that I am a graduate of the Ohio State University. I am a Buckeye fan through and through. But I have to honestly say, from my perspective, I'm kind of glad that they picked Alabama over Ohio State, just for the simple reason that if we look at the teams we would have been playing, Clemson and Oklahoma, we've already had our struggles with them within the last 12 months. So, I think it's okay. I think Ohio State's going to surprise some folks. And my brother is a huge USC fan. So I'm looking forward to being able to rub it in his face that Ohio State beat USC. So
are you going to be able to go to the game, maybe, or not?
No. I might be able to watch it, but we'll have to see what the schedule
looks like. Now, can you watch the game without throwing things at the television and telling your wife to go to the store?
Depends upon the day. Upon the day. When Ohio State was playing Alabama or playing Oregon in the national championship a few years ago, I was actually sitting there in the recliner watching TV, and in the first quarter, our two dogs just hightailed it out of there and refused to come back in the room. And my poor daughter decided she was going to record me because she thought it was so hilarious. The dad was yelling and screaming at the TV. Yeah.
My golly, that's interesting. It's. I know that we're almost out of time, but. Comments? If you want to plead to people about, again, fundraising for the Salvation Army, or just if somebody wants to volunteer to come in and work.
Absolutely. You can give us a call at the office, 740-687-1921. We're always looking for volunteers with the Samaritan Center. The kids programs can absolutely use some extra help. We're a little short staffed.
And that's in the evening.
That's in the evening. They're always looking for help in the food pantry. Help us be a part part of serving that those 30,000 plus meals again that we'll have this year. You know, when you volunteer, if you're volunteering or you're making a donation, you're joining in the fight for good. And we just encourage folks to come out and join us with that. And, you know, Mike, I have to say, I share this every opportunity I get to share with the public that I've had the opportunity, as we talked about earlier, to be a part of some different communities as part of the Salvation Army. And I got to tell you that Fairfield County is just one of the most giving and most generous. And I know that I'm personally thrilled that my family gets to be a part of this community and to just to continue working together with folks to meet needs right here in our county.
Well, keep up the good work. We're glad you're here, and if you want to come to the other side.
The other thing I have to stick out there too, though, and you've given me some grief for this one, is that
I would never do that.
My daughter actually did kids in college at OUL, and if I remember right, someone said to me, well, at least she's picking a better path than her father. So if I remember right, I'll have to find that text message or something there if I remember right.
Well, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it very much. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. And remember, until we meet again, let's make a difference.